To be noted, all members are present. Let's go around the room really quick and introduce yourselves.
Greg Hepp, Alderman.
Mayor Zyferwink.
Alderman Todd Ferkey.
Timothy Sarcy.
Joe Zerflu, Alderperson.
Terry Dolan, Alderperson.
Joe Blackman, Wisconsin Rapids City Times.
Joe Terry, Director of Public Works.
Adam Tagan, Planning and Economic Development.
Sue Shell, City Attorney.
Todd Trader, MSA.
Okay, agenda item number 2, review and consider approval of consultant proposal for the final design of the East Riverbank project. Keep ahead for a while now.
We haven't had any further modifications. We went through the proposals with the consultants before the last meeting, but then had some follow-up discussion with them. And MSA is here. If there's any specific questions in there, I don't think you guys have anything to add.
Just Joe Eichstead going to be here tonight. We asked that I would sit in and answer any questions on the thoughts behind the recommendation, if you had any. But ultimately it came down to, I think, 3 main factors. Number 1, the cost was competitive with the other consultant based on some revisions we requested. Number 2, obviously they did the preliminary design, so they're familiar with it. They brought MSA on board, which is a local company who we're very comfortable with, and MSA actually is the one who put together the Riverbank grant proposal to the DNR. So obviously they're very familiar with the project as well. So all those just seem to lean in their favor. So that's why the recommendation came from that direction.
I think we talked about financing, where that might come from, and doing the spend down and then using the proceeds from borrowing if that's the route that's selected to reimburse ourselves for those. Is that correct?
Right, yeah, because this will be a 2017 budget project, which we have the stewardship grant, and obviously there's a local match, and that'll be financed through part of the note bond debt proceeds, and the design costs will be reimbursed from those proceeds or other funding sources.
Can you clarify your recommendations on MSA?
It's
City
actually,
staff's
it
recommendation?
would actually be, I'm not blanking on their name. MSA.
Superman.
Supermass, but MSA is the subcontract.
Yes, the MSA would be the subcontractor. So yes, the contract would be with Supermax at $275.
Yeah. I mean, they were, I definitely like that proposal better. Yeah, that's what I do. I don't want to sway anybody, but it just, and the dollars are about the same, close.
So do we need to say that in a motion?
Yeah, that's why I want to get both names. And then make- Okay, I'd like to make a motion that we would go with the MSA Supermass consultant proposal for the final design of the East Riverbank project.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Yeah, just put the amount in your motion.
For $275,000, of course.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Item 3, consider approval of a quote from Infracon Incorporated for asbestos and lead abatement at 111 East Jackson Street.
I guess that would be me too. But basically, as you're aware, we're taking down Good Time Charlie's. So step 1 is to remove any of the really nasty stuff from the building. We had a study done by North Star Environmental in spring of last year, I believe it was, to identify everything. At that time, we could go ahead and get a quote from our typical contractor who generally does asbestos removal. It's the same company that did it for the Space and USDA building. He's always been very easy to work with, very reasonable cost. So he put together this quote, which is $6,000. This would be a grant eligible expense through the site assessment grant we received from the WEDC. So the recommendation is to hire or to act on this contract that costs not to exceed $6,000.
So I'll make a motion to approve the contract from Infocon for asbestos and lead abatement at 111 East Jackson Street for an amount not to exceed $6,000.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second, any further discussion? We have a motion and a second, all in favor? Aye. Opposed, motion carried. Item 4, consider proposals for demolition services for 111 East Jackson Street. This item may be a general update only if staff and the committee need more time to review proposals.
Staff and committee do not need more time
We don't
to
either.
review proposals, fortunately.
I was gonna say we don't either, so.
You're interested, yeah.
I think. Not too
That's all.
Yeah. Staff review the proposals. There were some issues with the LG Superior proposal that raised some flags and some concerns there. The projects that were identified as reference projects were done prior to that LLC becoming incorporated. So we just didn't feel that the company was established in 2015, didn't feel that the examples that were provided, albeit two of them seem to be similar in scope, but they weren't performed by that company. So the references from Robinson Brothers were good. The company that we talked to had used them for a number of projects and was very satisfied with their work. They were the next lowest proposal, and ultimately then that's staff's recommendation for $99,500. Staff also discussed the possibility of making a reference at a future finance committee meeting that 99.5 is substantially less than what was anticipated, and there may be some grant eligible funding to allow that company also, as a change order or another bid project altogether to do some of the site restoration. Those are things that we could review at a later date, but these numbers come in such that we'd have the flexibility to at least consider it.
Terry, question. What was the timeline that Robinson Brothers put in their bid? I know we had set some things in our RFP, but
Just one moment.
and I guess on the point of the site restoration, we're not able to do that with city force to be an eligible expense, is that
That's
correct?
Correct, we can do the work but not get reimbursed.
Reimbursed for it from the state.
And that was based on, if I can clarify a little bit, originally we were expecting much higher cost for the demolition, to be quite honest. It was when we had gotten some informal quotes from contractors, it was closer to $250,000. So we did not put the site restoration costs in the grant, but that is usually an eligible expense. So that's why we would look at that and discuss with the state to try and offset any additional impact on the budget. I do know that in the RFP, the building does have to be removed by December 15th at the latest.
And I don't think, some of the other proposals had the duration that they expected. This proposal doesn't include the duration, but they still need to fit within our contract.
Okay.
Requirement.
I'm just wondering if we wanted to, some of the other outstanding to-dos are doing some assessment of underground capacity for parking or any development beneath the grade. So I just wanted to know if there was a way for us to, before frost and things hit, when that work would be done there.
Well, I know the phase 2 work that Robert E. Lee and Associates at least will be bringing forward a quote on that potentially next month. That would not occur until the building is removed. So, yeah, ideally, the sooner we get the building down, the sooner we can get the testing done. And that, again, ties back to the whole purpose of the site assessment grant is to identify contamination. Similar process where you're taking soil bores, so it depends on our winter.
Yeah, right. they only build in 90 days, I guess, or less than
Yeah,
90
it's only,
days effectively
it's less
to
than.
do the work.
So with the demolition and the removal, I mean, they're taking care of the disposal of everything.
Correct. We have a provision in the specifications for the city to, we can receive the clean concrete.
Mhm.
We will not receive concrete that's contaminated with reinforcing, those types of things. So they'd have the option of breaking it up so that they can remove the metal, and then the city would eventually crush it and use it as aggregate, or they could landfill it. It would be completely their option. But in most cases, they're gonna wanna break it up and remove the metals and avoid those tipping fees.
Mhm.
Any questions? Okay, I'll make a motion to go with the staff's recommendation of the Robinson Brothers for demolition services for 111 East Jackson Street for their bid of $99,500 to be done by December, end of December, right?
15.
15th of December.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. Item 5, review and consider approval of the 2017 Mass Transit Operating Capital Grant Application and Budget Request.
Okay, just like the motion to hold this over to the next finance committee meeting. We had some inflation numbers that came in from the state that changed the grant numbers, so we have to kind of recalculate it, and then we'll bring it back at the October finance committee.
Make a motion to hold agenda item number 5 over the next property and finance committee meeting.
Second, Mr. Hebb. A motion and a second. Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Item 6, review and consider resolution amending the 2016 budget. Okay. We're doing that one, right?
Huh?
We're doing that one, right?
Yes. Okay, I'll kind of walk you through each of the budget amendments, and basically what it is the general fund is a reflection of what's being done in these other funds. So I'll walk through the special revenue funds and capital projects, and basically the general fund is just reflecting that those funds being moved out of the general fund and into these new funds. The first one is the EMS Special Revenue Fund, and basically this will be a special revenue fund, right, to account for our ambulance services, the revenues associated with that. Currently, right now, they're accounted for in the general fund and they're combined in the fire department budget. And what this does is this will break it out in the special revenue fund so that you can actually kind of see exactly, how that operation, since it's mostly supported by ambulance revenues, kind of gives a better indication of, what portion of the cost is being covered by the ambulance revenues and what's being subsidized by the tax levy. And also it does give us flexibility in that being outside the general fund as far as any cost increases not counting against expenditure restraint. So basically what's reflected there is the ambulance revenue, and then the transfer from the general fund is the operating subsidy or the tax levy, and the carryover funds in the ambulance outlay, which is used to purchase ambulance and related equipment. Room tax special revenue fund. Basically, this is what we're changing. This is that before the room tax revenue that's collected is given to the Wisconsin Rapids CVB, and also a portion of it goes towards our park outlay, our park department outlay, and our economic development. And currently, the park outlay and economic development expenditures are accounted for in the general fund. And basically, what we're doing is just moving those out of the general fund and then including it in the room tax fund. So basically all those expenditures be accounted for instead of a transfer from the room tax to the general fund. We're just moving it all into the room tax fund. The grants and donations special revenue fund. This is a special revenue fund that'll just account for if we get a grant or donation that's for a specific purpose, we'll account for it in this fund with the match either being funded. If there's a match, it'll have to be funded through the budget process or a transfer from the general fund or another fund. Some of the highlights here is, let's see, the hazmat, we get approximately $8,000 a year to be, the state gives us that to be the hazmat team in Wood County. So those funds go in there, and then that specifically accounts for expenditures related to the fire department's hazmat program. The police department at $52,013, that's the amount that we got from the Legacy Foundation for the narcotics detective. Tree Care Urban Forestry Grant is, we got $25,000 from the DNR, and then the $50,000, and then we had a $25,000 match, so that's accounting for that grant program, which will be completed this year. Donations and gifts, historically, the library gets a certain amount of money from the local foundation for their concert series, and that's included in there. Also, we have some donations in there from the city zoo, where they collected monies throughout the year, and now, so those are being designated for city zoo improvements. Equipment Replacement Capital Projects Fund. This is a fund that will account for any equipment replacement that we have that would be considered a capital asset that you would normally capitalize and depreciate. So the main ones in here is for information technology, that would be our computers and all our network hardware, servers and such. Police department vehicles, they have a rotating depreciation schedule where they buy 2 to 3 or 3 to 4 vehicles a year, to replace those and account for that. And the fire department vehicles would account for any fire vehicles other than the ambulances. And the transfer to the general fund is to cover is carrying those funds, the carryover funds that were in the general fund for those. The Public Works Construction Fund, but this is just what we were kind of discussing earlier, is this accounting for the expenditures for the acquisition and demolition of the buildings in the Triangle project, and that being the demolition of the 2 ones we did earlier this year, and then obviously Good Time Charlie's, and you see there the site assessment grant for $150 showing the match from that. So I think that covers all the major things. If there's any questions.
I just asked a question.
Sure.
So like the building acquisition fund,
Mm-hmm.
can you just explain like the current budget is, it says that's 30,000.
Correct.
But then this, the 584,000 number that wasn't in the budget previously, or I guess maybe I'm not tracking on that last point.
Yeah, correct. When we chose to approve to buy the Good Time Charlie's, at that time it wasn't included in the 2016 budget, so at that point we were going to take it out of reserves. So basically, what this is transferring it from the general fund and it is pay for that acquisition, that cost that we just closed on a couple months ago. And then obviously with the site assessment grant is using general fund reserves to pay for the matching portion of
Okay. Yeah, grant matching, I do understand.
that.
So. Then I guess I'd like to make a motion to approve the amendment to the 2016 budget as outlined.
Second that. Motion and a second, any further discussion?
You need the resolution number in there? Resolution.
Number
20.
I don't know if this was,
We'll attach it.
We have a motion and a second, any further discussion? Motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed, motion carried. No further discussion, motion to adjourn,
Second?
a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried at 5:19.